I was at the hospital 3 days ago. I went into the emergency department just to see the lineups were crazy. I'm going to fight for a minimum of 3 fully functioning hospitals, because Mississauga has 3 fully functioning hospitals and they have a smaller population than Brampton. How can anybody argue that we shouldn't have 3 fully functioning hospitals here? I will go and fight for that. This cell phone with the cell number is the same one, the same number, different phone, same number that I had as an MP. And I gave that number to everybody. So you could always call me and reach me and I would help you. And I had it in my constituency office. It was like a free legal aid clinic. So people came in and I helped people everywhere. It doesn't matter where they live.
What are the qualities you see in Bonnie Crombie so that people elect her as their premier?
I don't want my family or your family paying unfair amounts for auto insurance rates. The bottom line is this. We had a debate scheduled in my media. We had a debate for the Brampton Board of Trade. He didn't show up, missing in action. He won't debate me, he won't discuss the issues. He wants people to be afraid and scared and vote blindly. You got a one-time $200 check just when an election is happening to make you think he's doing something. That cost Ontario $3 billion.
I was listening one statement of Bonnie. She is saying, I don't care about Brampton, but you are going to say on that issue.
People need to leave their grievances at the door when they come to Canada. We're Canadians first.
We saw Ruby Dalla disqualified, we saw Chandra Rai disqualified. Namaskar and Sat Shri Akal to everybody. Welcome to our channel Brampton Live. I am Gagandeep Sharma. Hi Andrew, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you. Sat Shri Akal, namaste. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. And how is your campaign going on?
I think it's going great. I think we have lots of volunteers. We've been getting great responses at the doors, lots of sign requests, lots of positive media when I'm on radio shows and TV. So I think it's going great.
Why should people choose Andrew in these elections?
I think there are 2 main reasons. One is who I am and what I've done and what I'm capable of doing. So I'm a former member of Parliament for Brampton West. I've had many senior roles nationally across Canada. I'm a lawyer of over 30 years, so I'm able to fight for you and actually accomplish things. And my record as an MP lets people know that I actually do things. And the second would be the issues involved. So there are issues of concern, which if you could ask me about or you want me to explain, but there are serious issues, healthcare, crime, auto insurance rates, and all of these, if we have time, I can go through with some detail.
Okay, like as you mentioned, you were MP before.
Yes.
As a MP, what project did you deliver? And if you are elected as MPP, what you are going to do?
Okay, so when I was an MP, the Liberal Party was in opposition, not in government.
Okay.
But I still accomplished things. I still stood up in the House of Commons for human rights. I still brought a motion. We had the Great Recession in 2008 where people were suffering and they needed to change the EI system, employment insurance, to make sure people were covered fairly in Ontario, and we needed an economic stimulus package. And I stood up in the House of Commons and I fought for that, so that eventually there was an economic stimulus package. So I did things even though we were in opposition. I also ran a secretariat called the Scrutiny of Regulations Committee, so I essentially disallowed some of the conservative regulations that would have impacted freedom of speech. So I worked very hard even though we were in opposition and accomplished things.
If you are elected MPP, what are you going to do?
Okay, so first of all, I will always be available to the people. This cell phone with the cell number is the same one, the same number, different phone, same number that I had as an MP. And I gave that number to everybody. So you could always call me and reach me and I would help you. And I had it in my constituency office. It was like a free legal aid clinic. So people came in and I helped people everywhere. It doesn't matter where they lived. And there are issues now that I want to go and fight about. But I want to mention this. My Conservative opponent, we had a debate scheduled in my media. We had a debate for the Brampton Board of Trade. He didn't show up, missing in action. He won't debate me, he won't discuss the issues. And after 7 years in power, you should be able to tell people what you've accomplished. This is what I want to accomplish. Healthcare is a priority here. There are 2.5 million people in Ontario that don't have a family doctor and thousands in Brampton. Everybody will have one within 4 years. That's a promise of the party. My personal promise is to fight for 3 fully functioning hospitals in Brampton. We have 1. Mississauga down the road has a smaller population than Brampton now. They have 3 fully functioning hospitals. Doug Ford has had 7 years to fix this problem, and he's done nothing. We can talk about crime.
We are going to touch all these topics.
Fine, no problem. Okay.
Like, what are the qualities you see in Bonnie Crombie so that people elect her as their premier?
Bonnie and I were members of parliament together. We are friends. I know from the time in parliament that she is smart, hardworking, honest, and she keeps her promises. So when you hear her make a promise, you can know that's going to happen. She was somebody that I trust, and I would be proud to have her as our premier.
Like, conservatives are saying that early elections are due to tariffs. What are the main reasons you are seeing behind these elections?
Well, they're saying it's mainly because of tariffs, and they're not telling the truth. They are misleading people because the division of powers in Canada, the provincial government, is not responsible for tariffs. That is the federal government. Doug Ford said something like, "Who do you want sitting across the table from Donald Trump?" He knew it would never be him. He's been in Washington twice since the election. He never got anywhere close to Donald Trump. He wants people to be afraid and scared and vote blindly because they think he's the one that's going to be dealing with this when he has nothing to do with it. This has everything to do. He wants to avoid the real issues: healthcare, crime, auto rates, things that actually matter. So it is false to state that this is a tariff election. It is only for him to try to mislead people into voting for him because they're afraid.
Sir, in Brampton, auto insurance rates are too much high, like 600, 700. People can't afford these rates. But in other provinces, provincial government are taking care of these rates in some provinces. Are you going to take care of this issue, auto insurance?
Yes. And let me explain how. That's a very clear answer. The Insurance Act that governs insurance companies is a provincial statute. That means it is the Ontario government that tells insurance companies what to do, not the reverse, and it has nothing to do with the federal government. So all the high auto insurance rates in Brampton are because of Doug Ford and nothing else. So there's an insurance statute that can be amended, and the auto insurance system can be fixed as well. This is a 10-15 minute explanation for how to do it, but you have to amend the law to determine how people are compensated fairly for motor vehicle accidents, and then you have to deal with how people are rated, where they're living, including if they're good drivers. So ultimately, the bottom line is this: I don't want my family or your family paying unfair amounts for auto insurance rates, and I will fight to deal with that. And I know exactly, as a lawyer of over 30 years who's dealt with this for 30 years, how to do it.
Moving forward, sir, people are also not afford houses here in Brampton or in GTA, you can say. Are you going to make all these affordable housing?
Yeah, affordability is a significant issue. People are essentially, think about this. Ask yourself this question, because Doug Ford has been premier for 7 years. Are you and your family better off now than you were 7 years ago? Yes or no? The answer is no. Everybody's going to say no. Grocery prices, auto insurance rates, gas prices, everything's up and crazy. So for housing starts, there's a clear plan. Removing land transfer tax for first-time home buyers, removing development charges, so that houses, depending on the house, could be about $100,000 cheaper. Removing taxes on home heating and hydro, and people don't remember this, but 7 years ago, Doug Ford promised a tax cut. He didn't do it. You got a one-time $200 check just when an election is happening to make you think he's doing something. That cost Ontario $3 billion. The Liberal Party has promised a permanent tax cut, which for most people will save them about $1,500 to $2,000 a year. And that's what Bonnie's promised. And as I already told you, Bonnie is honest and hardworking, and she'll keep her promise.
I was listening one statement of Bonnie. she is saying, I don't care about Brampton. What you are going to say on that issue?
That's not what she said. She was mayor of Mississauga, and Patrick Brown was going to all the events in Mississauga. And a comment was made simply that her responsibility is, as at that time, was mayor of Mississauga. And now, and Patrick Brown should have been in Brampton dealing with Brampton people rather than going into Mississauga, and that's all it was. She was here in December before the election in my riding of Brampton West, promising the people of Brampton, who thousands of which don't have family doctors, that she will fix that problem, and within 4 years everybody would have one. She deeply cares about Brampton, and I'm here to help because she and I are friends, and we were members of Parliament together.
Sir, there is a high demand for another hospital in Brampton because lines are too longer. People have to wait like 4 to 6 hours to get a treatment. Like, what are you going to do on this issue?
I was at the hospital 3 days ago. I went into the emergency department just to see the lineups were crazy. And I mean, we're not allowed, people should not be allowed and having to wait like this, and the government should not be allowed to treat people in this manner. They've had 7 years to fix this, and I've said, I'm going to fight for a minimum of 3 fully functioning hospitals for the people of Brampton. This is common sense. This isn't a debate. You don't need studies. Because Mississauga has 3 fully functioning hospitals and they have a smaller population than Brampton. How can anybody argue that we shouldn't have 3 fully functioning hospitals here? I will go and fight for that. It's not good enough for the Conservatives to say, well, maybe we'll now start building a second fully functioning hospital. They had 7 years to do it.
Sir, violence between the communities is increasing day by day in Brampton. Like, what laws should government bring to control all these issues?
When people hear me speak, I'm saying that my 2 major issues are healthcare and crime. And that's the other one now, crime. Brampton is not safe. In the last approximate 1 year, home invasions have gone up about 350%. That is unacceptable. Violent crime in the last 5 years has gone up approximately 500%. The administration of this isn't a federal government issue. This is a provincial government, because go to the courthouse. It says Ontario. The administration of justice under the Constitution of Canada is a provincial responsibility. It's Doug Ford's responsibility to protect the people and make sure that you don't have those crazy crime statistics. How? It's not complicated. Have a 911 system that works. Phones you call, it's picked up, it's dispatched. Have enough police officers on the street. Invest in technology. Have bail reforms so that violent criminals and repeat offenders are not just let back on the street. Have more judges, because what's happening is a lot of cases are being thrown out of court because they're taking too long to be prosecuted in the Supreme Court of Canada law. And I've handled a case in the Supreme Court of Canada, so I understand how it works. The Supreme Court of Canada law is that if you don't prosecute within 18 months, the charges go away. So you have to have a better system to make sure that the criminals are punished when they're caught, and to make sure that the people are protected from those criminals. So I want my family, your family, everybody else's family protected, and I'm going to go and fight for that if I'm elected.
Sir, you are talking about crime. I'm talking about violence between the communities. Like last year, we saw violence near Hindu Sabha Mandir.
Yes.
This is between 2 specific communities.
Right.
So what laws you are bringing on that issue?
Well, we have laws in terms of people not committing violent acts anywhere.
Yeah.
So now what you're discussing is grievances of communities from their home countries.
Yeah.
People need to leave their grievances at the door when they come to Canada. We're Canadians first. My family came as my mother came as her family were refugees, and my father's family were immigrants. So I understand the immigrant experience, but when you come to Canada, you're Canadian. So maybe you're asking 2 different things. There are laws to protect people, but what you're also is we need to get people together in understanding and in groups so that they're not bringing these grievances.
Yeah, but last year,
Yes.
you are also a former MP also.
Yes.
and lawyer also.
Yes.
Last year we saw that violence like started one day, and second day we saw that again, third day. It's about whole week.
Yes.
Same violence, but I don't think anything law take place at that place.
No, I mean, if you have protesters somewhere, wherever, and I'm not saying that these are protesters, but just generally, if you think there could be trouble, you make sure you have a police presence, right? So that people are protected. Nobody should be subjected to physical violence in Canada at any time for any reason. People can discuss issues, you can have disagreements, there may be people who are right, people who are wrong, but ultimately that doesn't mean violence. So when you think that something like that might happen, or when it has been proven to happen, you make sure there's a significant police presence. And you can do that if you have enough police officers on the streets. And if you have enough police officers on the streets, if 911 calls are picked up, then the criminals are going to be caught, and then they'll also be deterred, and you won't have 350% increase in home invasions in the last approximate 1 year. These are serious issues. These are real issues for people. This is an election that matters, because your daily life is affected more by the provincial government than the federal government. And crime and healthcare and education, these are all provincial responsibilities. So you need somebody who will be elected, who is not afraid to fight, who understands the issues, who also understands how to solve the problems, which I've done as an MP, which I've done as a lawyer, and which I will do now. And at any point in time, I'm happy to speak to you, media, people, to explain exactly what I'm doing, to earn the trust of the people if I'm elected as an MPP.
Okay. Sir, you are from Liberal, you also fight for a federal, and now you are fighting for provincial elections.
Yes.
From last 2 terms, we are seeing that in federal, Liberal are winning here as MPs. But in MPP, they are losing. What are the reasons you are thinking? Because you are Liberal leader also.
Every election is different, and the provincial government and the federal government are different. And the identity of a political party generally comes from the leader. So let me give you an example. The last election, the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party was more on the left side of the party. The people of Ontario, I don't think, are on the left side of the political spectrum. I think that they're center and reasonable. Okay. So Bonnie Crombie has brought the Ontario Liberal Party back to the center. And as she describes it, that is fiscally responsible and socially progressive. So because of that, I believe that the people of Ontario will understand that the Liberal Party is a common sense party, that we will identify problems, we will try to solve them with the best of our ability, and take the ideas from all sides to come up with the best solution, not governing from the idea that you're on the left-hand side like the NDP, or on the right-hand side like the Conservatives, but in the middle common sense side to do what is right.
But federal issues are also impacting this provincial elections, like carbon tax and all these issues, immigration issue, affecting this provincial election also.
Maybe marginally, but they shouldn't be, because for the carbon tax as an example, and I've spoken out about the carbon tax for at least 4 years, okay? I knew it was going to hurt people, and I was against it. They say Doug Ford had ads running saying Bonnie's queen of the carbon tax. That's false. She's against the carbon tax, and when they run those ads, they're not telling the truth. So she's totally against that. Now, the Liberal leadership candidates who are replacing Justin Trudeau, they're all saying no carbon tax. So carbon tax should not be an issue for this election anymore. In terms of other issues, you could take federal issues, but ultimately, I think part of this was that a lot of people were questioning how the federal Liberal Party was really on the left-hand side, but things are now moving and changing with the people who are running.
If you don't mind, can I ask you 1 or 2 more federal questions?
Ask whatever you want.
Yeah. We saw Ruby Dalla disqualified, we saw Chandra Ray disqualified. So you are saying Liberal Party is moving from left to center in federal also?
Yes.
But from these actions we are not seeing, because Ruby was center to right?
Well, the views of candidates who are disqualified are not determinative of the views of where the party is going to be, because if they were disqualified with reasons that are valid for breaking the rules or spending problems, and I haven't read anything, so I'm not saying that anything's valid. And Ruby and I were MPs together, so I'm not saying any of that. I'm simply saying that the party came to a conclusion that certain candidates were not able to run or had violated the rules. And if that's what they decided, that has nothing to do with how the Liberal Party is going to be thinking into the future, but whether they're a centre party or not. Because the main candidates now all are, in my view, in the centre of the spectrum, not on the left-hand side.
And sir, also, although this is a federal issue also, but this problem is becoming Brampton problem more, because we saw last year a lot of international students are protesting due to bad policies of federal government, but they are protesting in Brampton. So what you are going to say on these issues?
Okay, so that absolutely that's all federal. And it's actually nothing to do with the current provincial election campaign, because the election campaign is crime and healthcare and affordability. That's what the provincial government can do. I will say, as I am a former MP, that when it comes to these immigration issues, you have to make sure that the people that you're bringing here are treated fairly. There's infrastructure for them, they have housing, they're taken care of, because you can't bring somebody here and then not care for them. Yeah. But you also have to make sure that the people that you are bringing are screened properly, and that they're qualified, and that they have a, they don't have a criminal record, and that they're not going to hurt anybody. So immigration is important, and it's important for our economy. It's also important for families, because if you have a family here and you want to bring somebody over and you want to sponsor them, why should you not be able to bring your grandmother, as an example, right? And I spoke about that when I was an MP fighting for family reunification. So ultimately, you have to look at what makes sense for Canadians and what's also fair to the people that are here, but to do it in a responsible manner.
Anything you want to say to the Brampton residents, you can say.
Thank you. Please come and vote for me. And I'm going to tell you the story from what happened in 2011. In that election, I had been doing good work. I know I was popular, and we lost. We all lost in the Greater Toronto area because too many people voted for other parties like the NDP. So this election is important. I want to be able to go and fight for you like I did as an MP over these issues, the healthcare and the third hospital and crime and the home invasions. These are important things. I know how to fix them, and I'm not afraid to debate. I will go and fight for you. So please vote for me and Liberal, even if you were thinking of voting for, as example, the NDP. The NDP candidate is a very nice person and a 21-year-old student. He's not going to be able to help you the way that I can. Please coalesce and help me defeat the Conservative who has not helped you for 7 years.
ਸੋ ਦਰਸ਼ਕੋ, ਇਹ ਸਨ ਐਂਡਰਿਊ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਤੋਂ MPP ਦੀ ਚੋਣ ਲੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਨ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਸਿਆਸੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਲੈ ਕੇ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।